Good morning. Welcome to the forecast discussion for January 8th, 2012. Of course, it is a Tuesday morning at 8:30 a.m. And we are a little bit chilly, but really kind of warm for this time of year as far as morning lows and morning temperatures, I say. You can clearly see where we have a snowpack and where we don't. Where we have a snowpack, we have temperatures in the mid-teens to lower 20s in the Hudson River Valley and portions of northeastern Pennsylvania. Mid to upper 20s over portions of Connecticut and northern New Jersey. And then, of course, where we don't have the snowpack, we have temperatures rising into the lower to mid 30s, even 40 degrees over southeastern Connecticut, as the temperatures start to rapidly rebound. Now, all locations will warm up nicely this afternoon into the 40s, which is slightly above normal for this time of year. It's seasonably warm. Okay, so for the most part, we're dealing with a tranquil, nice, comfortable day. Now, notice the winds, though. They're coming from the south and the southwest. And the reason why is that we're starting to establish a high-pressure system off the coast. And that is going to lead to some very comfortable weather conditions for this week on through this weekend. A little bit of rain, but overall, not bad at all, especially with it being winter and all. Taking a look at the radar, I think it's pretty clear. There's not much going on here. The most impressive precipitation is, well, ground clutter. Really, there's nothing going on over the eastern United States at all. Why is that the case? Well, the infrared satellite picture pretty much shows why. We have high pressure dominating much of the eastern United States here. We have a warm front clipping the region. This warm front will not produce any precipitation, as you can see. Some cloud cover, but that's about it. This high pressure system will organize itself and establish itself off of the North Carolina coast right about here. And that's going to produce a nice southwesterly flow from the Gulf of Mexico up into the Philadelphia and New York City metropolitan area. And what does that mean for us? That means 50s. But don't get too used to it. Enjoy it while it lasts. Go out, have a nice run. Enjoy some nice weather outside. Heck, even have a picnic. Because you're going to miss it big time by the time next week rolls around. Let's say around late Tuesday. Let's say around January 15th. Let's go with that one. Around January 15th, big changes are underway. So enjoy this weather while it lasts because it is very nice. And I really don't see much in the way of any major winter storms or any major precipitation events setting up until maybe Friday. We get a few showers here and there, perhaps a period of moderate rain. And then the next threat will be later on in the weekend on to Monday. So let's take a look at the latest model guidance using the European model guidance from the Penn State EWOL website. The European has been, for the most part, consistent. So let's start out for this evening. As you can see, we have a nice ridge setting up at almost all levels of the atmosphere from 500 millibars down to the surface. Even at the mid-levels, you see a nice south to southwesterly wind. And that, of course, is going to transport plenty of warm air into the region. It's also going to keep very dry conditions in place for today, tomorrow, going on through Thursday. Very comfortable weather conditions. Now, Thursday might be a little bit cooler because of the position of this high-pressure system. Instead of the 50s, we might be talking about lower to mid-40s in some locations. However, that high-pressure system will shift off of the coast. And you can see we'll have the threat for a few showers, especially with this disturbance here, but I don't expect any widespread heavy rainfall at this point. With this high pressure system in place, I do expect temperatures to push into the upper 40s to lower 50s over the interior, mid to upper 50s over the coast. That's right, we're about 20 degrees above normal by the time we get into Friday. So clearly we're going to be dealing with a very comfortable, very enjoyable weather pattern. Keep an eye on this upper level low here. And the reason why is because if this shifts a little bit further north, then we might have a little bit more confluence here. And that could support a high pressure system around Maine, which could blunt these warm temperatures a bit. It's a little bit of a volatility question that we're going to deal with. There's plenty of warm air surging up at the mid-levels, but if you get this high pressure system setting up around Maine, instead of scattered cloud cover and very warm conditions, you could end up with overcast skies because you got marine air trying to build in down the coast, and you have this very warm air aloft at 850 millibars. So we're going to keep an eye on this upper level low for Friday. That is a bust potential there. Instead of the 50s, you could be stuck in the 40s if that high pressure system sets up just a little bit further north, because this upper level low sets up just a little bit further north. Just something to keep an eye on as we move forward. Now, what will happen going forward is that this huge trough here is going to shift to the east. And what that's going to lead to is that on Sunday, we're going to start to see rapidly increasing clouds, better potential for showers, and of course, very warm temperatures. At this point, I think this upper level low will shift further enough east to support high pressure dominating down over the southeast. And as a result, we end up with a strong southwesterly flow at all levels of the atmosphere, which means that our temperatures are very much into the 50s. So then by the time we get to Monday, well, here comes our cold front charging to the east, and here comes the cold air with it. So I'm expecting periods of moderate to heavy rainfall on Monday, potentially mixing with and changing over to snow. Now, something to keep an eye on with these disturbances moving through is that if you're in a valley location, especially on Friday morning, let me backtrack here for a second. Go back to Friday morning here. Saturday night into Friday night into Saturday morning, okay? We have this disturbance lifting north, and if this high pressure system is a little bit further north, and you have cold air locked into these valleys, it is something to keep an eye on with a little threat of freezing rain, okay? So we're going to keep an eye on that as well. Right now, I think this is just for Poughkeepsie on northward, but I really don't see this as being a dominant, significant threat, but just something I wanted to throw in there. Just popped into my head just a moment there. So here we are back again for Monday. That cold front is driving through. Here's our Arctic high pressure system. Now, keep an eye on this. This is our polar vortex. I've been talking with my premium members, and we've been arguing back and forth. Is the cold air coming? And I've been saying, look, the major stratospheric warming event is going to have a major impact on this weather pattern. And the key here is to get this to drop south and east. If it drops south and west, well, that leads to a big ridge over the east. If it drops south and east, then it crushes this ridge, produces a nice strong blocking pattern over the northern Atlantic. Meanwhile, this ridge continues to build, and you end up with a very, very high potential weather pattern setting up for January and February, mid-January and February. So keep an eye on this over the 7 to 10 day period, and notice that it starts off around the around northern Canada, just to the north of the Hudson Bay, and look where it ends up. It ends up heading towards the Hudson Bay, with a lot of height falls developing around the northern Atlantic. We have very cold air invading. Now, this is 7 to 10 days out. You do not take this model solution verbatim. However, it does show a strong agreement with the GFS, the GFIS, and also the European Ensemble Model Guidance and a whole host of other model guidance. But more importantly, it is also strongly supported by the observation seen at the stratosphere and at the tropical level. So there's a lot of interesting changes on the way, especially after January 15th. And these changes will definitely be felt, especially compared to the weather we're going to be dealing with the next 5 to 7 days throughout the northern mid-Atlantic. Finally, if you have some time, I know you do, why don't you come out to Homeville, Pennsylvania? I think that's how it's spelled, Homeville. Just to the northeast of Philadelphia. Between 9:30 and 11 a.m. on January 19th, we're having a winter weather workshop with myself, the guys at liveweatherblogs.com, Gia Weather, Gia Environmental Weather, Atmosphere. And we're all going to be going out there, and we're going to have some presentations for you. Of course, you're going to be able to ask us questions about the winter, what to expect, what's happening, why hasn't this happened, why did that happen. So you're going to have a chance to, have some fun, we'll have some drinks, some refreshments, and it's for a good cause too, as a portion of the fee goes to the Red Cross Sandy Relief Drive. $20 in advance, $30 at the door. Visit nynjpaweather.com for a link for signing up. that is your forecast for today. Of course, I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. You follow the latest weather information at nynjpaweather.com and nynjpaweather on Twitter and Facebook. Of course, part of the Storm Surge LLC group. Have a great day. Stay safe out there.